Welcome to Bible Talk Insight as we continue our daily study with Reel 4. Now we shift gears a bit. We've seen Rahab's bold faith. Next up, we meet the Gibeonites and their approach to survival. Well, it's quite different.
Very different. Where Rahab was direct, even defiant, the Gibeonites chose deception, cunning. They heard about Israel's victories just like Rahab did, and they were terrified.
So fear is the motivator again, but instead of throwing themselves on Israel's mercy directly, they hatch this elaborate plan.
Right. Joshua chapter 9 describes it. They pretend to be ambassadors from a really distant country. They show up with supplies that look like they've traveled for weeks.
Moldy bread, worn-out wineskins, patched-up clothes, and sandals. The whole 9 yards.
Exactly. A very convincing performance. And like Rahab, they do acknowledge God's power. They mention hearing about God's fame, what he did in Egypt and to those other kings. So they recognize God's power.
But they use that knowledge to manipulate Israel. And here's where Israel makes a critical mistake.
A huge mistake. The text is very specific. It says the leaders of Israel, Joshua included, examined their provisions. And this is the key phrase, they asked, not counsel at the mouth of Jehovah.
They didn't pray about it. They didn't seek God's guidance.
Nope. They relied entirely on the physical evidence, on the appearance of things. They looked at the moldy bread and worn-out sandals and bought the story.
And based on that deception, they made a treaty.
Yes. The princes swore an oath, a sacred oath in God's name to let the Gibeonites live. They made a covenant with them.
Okay, but once they found out, and they did find out pretty quickly that the Gibeonites were actually local Canaanites, neighbors, they just say, hey, you lied, the deal's off.
That's the trap. An oath sworn in God's name, even if obtained through trickery, was considered absolutely binding. Psalm 15 even praises the person who swears to his own hurt and does not change.
Wow. So breaking the oath would have been seen as dishonoring God himself.
Precisely. It would bring judgment upon Israel.
Ugh.
So they were stuck. They either had to violate God's command to completely conquer Canaan, or they had to break a sacred oath made in his name. A terrible dilemma.
A dilemma born from their own failure to consult God in the first place.
Exactly. It shows how crucial that step is. But it also sets up another surprising display of God's process.
Find more encouragement daily on Facebook at Bible Talk Insight and Answers from Scripture. And please, subscribe to this podcast.